Hello, hello, hello. How is everyone? First, I'd like to say, hey, hit the like, subscribe, share my channel, and thanks again for tuning in. Uh, Good to have you. This video is going to be somewhat like a memoir of my experience in hotels. I spent a good part of the first part of my working career in hotels. And so I would love to be able to share some of my experiences and the things I have done and the people I have met and the people, I've worked with. It's been a fun ride. Uh, I've always been the kind of person that enjoy uh, meeting people, small conversations, just enjoy just assisting people. So hotel happened to be a good fit. Well, back in the 80s, there was a television show or television series or you could call it a television evening soap opera that was by Aaron Spelling that was called Hotels. And it aired all throughout the 80s and it carried a lot of storylines of the staff of that hotel as well as some of the guests of that hotel. And so I think probably I was influenced into this line of work by watching that television show. That television show was fun to watch. It came on every week, and I enjoyed it. And so I think that's what influenced me to get into this type of hotel. But my start was very small. I saw an ad in the newspaper, living in Chicago at the time. They need hotel employees, and so I went to this hotel, went to the job interview. I was told what the job consists of, and it was a not the typical hotel. It was called the Shoreland Hotel, but the hotel was owned by a college at the time. So I went on and took the job. And so my job pretty much at that point consists of me moving furniture in and out of rooms, did a lot of furniture repairs, removing hardware, putting on new hardware. I guess in today's times, if you do that type of job in hotels, you will be called an engineer. It will be part of the hotel's engineering department. And so I did that for a little while, probably almost 2 years, until again I was looking in the newspaper and I saw that they had just built a new Westin hotel out by the airport. It was called the Westin O'Hare, and they had the ad and all the positions that was available. And so I said, maybe I can give this a shot. So I got up early one morning and got on the L train, headed on out there to Rosemont, Illinois, and there was a lot of trailers in the parking lot. This was during the winter time. The weather was cold, it was windy, it was snowy, and I got off the train, went over to the parking lot and realized I was the first one there. The trailers wasn't unlocked yet, although there was some staff, I guess, in the trailers preparing, for their day, preparing to receive all the people who was going to come and, apply for the jobs at this hotel. The hotel was still under construction, but it was near finished. You can look at it and tell within weeks that hotel is going to open. So I was really excited again, thinking about this hotel series that I used to watch. So finally they opened the door and I went in. By this time I was cold. I was freezing. And back in those days, when you apply for a job, it's not like now. Now you apply for a job and you arrive casually dressed. Even for the interview, you're casually. Back then, it was a little different. You kind of dressed up. So I was in a suit, a tie, and so I was looking like I was applying for management, but I was just coming there just to, give a good first impression. So I went in, I sat down, and they say it's going to be a while, but while you're waiting, if you would like, there's a coffee over here, and the restrooms are over here, and so they kind of showed me around, and so I was really excited. I mean, I was really excited, and I again in that time in my life, I love interviews because I was the type of a guy. I might not look pretty impressive on paper, but you get me in front of you and sit down and talk to me, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna talk you into a job. so so as I got my coffee, and I think I had donuts or something, so I ate that and I sat down and just trying to get myself warm. So once I got warm, then other people started coming in. They started coming in, and so the staff was busy, whatever. So as people come in, I would give them the information that was given to me. I said, hey, if you want, come in. You can lay your coats here. There's coffee being served over here. The restroom's around the corner. And so they would say, oh, thank you. So that they would get settled in. More people would come in. And since I was kind of like sitting in a location where people kind of passed me to get to wherever else they were, so as people come in, I just kept repeating that message over and over and over and over and over, to the point where the people who was coming in to apply for the job thought I was a part of the Western company. They thought that was my job, is to kind of, direct traffic to where everything were, where you sit down until, you got your clipboard with your application, you get to sit down and apply for your job. So I finally got my clipboard and I sat down and I applied for my job, and then I put it up and I was waiting for them to call. But in the meantime, I was continuing to do what I was doing. People come in and I said, oh, right this way. I say, just come in, sit down, put your coats right here, your coffee, whatever. The restrooms around the corner. And so after doing that, probably almost 100 times, so somebody from the staff showed up, came to me and says, which Western did they send you here from? Because everybody there was from Westerns from other states, and they were coming to do the grand opening preparation for the hotel. So they thought I was part of the staff that arrived from the Western from some other place. And I said, oh, no. I says, I'm here to apply for a job. They went, really? They said, we've been watching you, and we just assumed that you were from another hotel, so we hadn't called you. So they said, well, come follow me. So I got up and followed them. So of course I went through my interview, and later, a day or so later, they called me and told me what day I report for work. So I got a chance to work for a hotel that I was very excited about. The hotel still wasn't open when I hired, so we spent the first few days breaking furniture out of boxes and tearing up plastic and disposing of boxes, and just kind of running around with a dust rag, dusting things off. And as the people position the furniture, we just kind of dust things off, had a vacuum, we vacuum floors, and just kind of get the hotel ready for its grand opening. They bring us into a big meeting room and kind of indoctrinate us of the culture of the hotel and what it's about and the history and all of that. So that was very exciting for me. It was a new beginning, something that I felt like, I can really become a part of something that's much bigger than myself. And so I did that, which was quite exciting. So in working at that hotel, they asked for what position you're applying for. And so I'm the kind of person, I'm not trying to get no position right now because I don't have a whole lot of experience in hotels, but just give me the lowest position you have. Just get me in the door, and I'll just let you see my work ethic. That was my thinking. So I became a luggage attendant. And in a lot of hotels back in the day, those of you who are probably my age and older, they was called bellhops, luggage attendants. So that's what I did. Welcome guests to the hotel, grab their luggage. And if you and back in those days, younger people don't remember this, but back in those days, luggage wasn't pulled behind on wheels. you had to lift it and put it on carts and then lift it off the cart to sit it in the luggage rack in the room. So bellhop and luggage attendant was a big position back then, and it was a very busy position. And so, you welcome your guests and you grab the luggage and you take them up to the room and unload the luggage and you position however way they want it. And then you came down and you took care of the next guest. And you spent the entire day, doing runaround chores when there wasn't check-ins at the moment. And when there was check-ins, that was your job. You took care of the luggage. And it was fun. It was nice. It was nice to be able to do something to make somebody's life easy, to make the transition and checking in seamless, good conversation, giving recommendations, whatever. So that was fun. I really enjoyed that. That was fun. So I did that for quite some time. I did it for quite some time, enjoyed the hotel, learned my way around the hotel because, you gave directions. Where's the restroom? Where's the restaurant? Where's, the bar? Where do I get my shoes shine? So I enjoyed that. That was so much fun. Then after that, I got an opportunity to be kind of promoted to guest service captain. And guest service captain was somewhat of a supervisor. And my job at that point was to kind of oversee all my luggage attendants. There was, I think, at least 15 of us on 3 shifts. So I got a chance to oversee the luggage attendants, bellhops, as you were. And that was a pretty good job, too. It taught me responsibility. I learned things about myself in terms of leadership. I also learned that I guess I can have influence. I'm learning a lot of things about myself at this point. And so being a guest service captain was a growing experience for me. Also kept an eye on the shuttle bus drivers. I think we had 6 shuttle buses at the time. We had the shoe shine attendant. That was a part of the guest service department. The door attendant, that was part of the guest service department. So my job was just kind of keep track of those people. You kind of kept track of their hours. You turned their hours in so that they can get paid their proper pay during the week. And so that was my job. It taught me responsibility. It taught me leadership. And it also, again, like I said, it helped me to realize that, hey, I have some influence, which was nice. So after doing that for a while, the guest service manager, who was my boss at that time, he was laid off from a previous job he had before he got a job there. And he had been laid off for a couple of years, and they called him back. So he chose to go back because, he had seniority and he was nearing retirement. And so he resigned and left. And so since I was the guest service captain, I was offered the position to become guest service manager. So I took the job. And that job was pretty much, the responsibility was pretty much the same, except for there was a little more weight on my shoulders. It was now my responsibility if something didn't go well. So, I made sure everything went well. I was in good relationship with my coworkers to begin with, so I didn't have any issues with anyone, not listening to, what I ask or whatever. So, that job went well. I guess the only regret that I had in taking that job is, unlike a line job, such as a bellman, a doorman, whatever, where you get tips in addition to your salary or your hourly, managers don't get tips, so they just get their salary. So, which was a rude awakening. I earned less in my salary than I did working as a line employee. which is okay. So, but I learned a lot about myself. Again, I learned that, okay, I can be a manager. You know, I wasn't a rock star, but I held my own. And so things went well as far as that concerned. Uh, while I was there, while I was working that job, I guess the biggest takeaway experience I had is a big movie was filmed in town, and it was called The Breakfast Club. Now, many of you my age or older again, and unless you're a movie buff, you probably remember the old movie back in the 80s called The Breakfast Club. And all of the movie stars stayed at the hotel. So I saw them every morning. You see them every morning. They get up, they come down, they have their coffee. Sometimes they have their breakfast in the restaurant, those who wanted breakfast, or they have already had their breakfast in room service. They got on the vans every morning and they headed out to the set. And so I got to speak to them every morning, and they were there at least 2 months, maybe longer than that, 2 months. So I got to know them pretty good, you know, speaking to them every single morning. So there's 3 that really stuck out in my mind as far as I got to know. And they were Molly Ringwald, Judd Nelson, and Emilio Escovedo. Now, all these were kids at the time. They were real young at the time. So I got to know them. And so one day they invited me to the set. And I said, you know, they said, have you ever been to a movie set? I'm like, no, never been to a movie set. They said, come on to the movie set and see what we do. So I said, okay. So on a day off, I think it was a day off, they gave me the address where the set was located. And I got there, and I think it was at a school. And it was inside this gymnasium. They had built this, I think it built this big set on the inside. I think it was inside of a gymnasium, inside of some type of building. And I was really impressed. I said, man, talking about realistic looking, this set looks realistic, you know. And so I got a chance to watch them work, and I kind of, you watch the director, and you know, he's counting down, and you know it's time to be quiet, and he'll say action, and you kind of watch them, you know, and then they might mess up and they'll do it again, and they'll do take 2 and take 3 and I went, wow, is this how movies made? This is really interesting. And so they went for a break, and during the break, you know, they had catering companies off to the side who was serving food, you know, and whatever. And so they invited me, hey, you know, you're welcome to, you know, have some. I said, well, thank you. So I went over there and got myself a plate. Man, that food was good. I mean, they ate good. You hear me? They really ate good. So that was my experience. That's my takeaway experience of working that job. I got a chance to know some of the cast, not personally, but enough to speak to them every morning, where I knew their names. They knew my first name. They knew me as a bellman who worked, you know, at the hotel. And, you know, every now and then they'll request something, you know, a towel or something in their room, and I'll be the one to bring it up. And so, you know, doing that for a couple of months, you really get to kind of know them, you know, not as a friend, but more of an associate level or hotel employee to hotel guest, you know, relationship type of thing. So that was the big takeaway that I had for that experience. And that was really nice. That was really fun. And I learned that I really like working hotels. It's not, like I said earlier, it's not as glamorous as the television series Hotel, but there's a wealth of experience to learn. There's a wealth of experience to live through. And there's a wealth of very interesting people to meet, and you know, various connections and possibly some long-term friendships that could be, you know, learned and you know, through this type of experience. And so that was really nice, and I really enjoyed that. After working at the Westin O'Hare, I put in for a position out in Los Angeles. Now, every year, I love watching, you know, like the New Year's parade, you know, in Pasadena, you know, the Rose Parade. And so I always wanted to be in LA. And plus, I hate it. I hated winters. I did not like snow. I did not like freezing. I wanted to be somewhere where around Christmas time, I go outside in my short sleeves. So I talked to my boss and I said, hey, do me a favor and place a call out, to the hotels in Los Angeles area and see if they have any. I really want to be a doorman. See if they have any doorman position available. And if they had it available, would they be willing to hold it for at least a week until I come out there and get interviewed? And so my boss said, you really want to move out there? I said, yeah, I really do. So he got on the phone, he made some phone calls, and sure enough, at the Westin Bonaventure Hotel, there was a doorman position available. And so he called out there and they agreed. They said, okay, if he's willing to come out here, we'll hold a position. And so when he get here, we'll interview, because I felt like, hey, if you interview me, I got the job. That was just not a worry. And it was just not a worry I had. Just if you get me to sit down in front of you, I'll win you over. I am your doorman. And so, of course, I moved out there, and 3 days, I drove. 3 days I arrived out there. Finally got to the hotel. And to my disappointment, they gave my job away to the general manager's son. Which is okay, because I was out there, and so they did promise me that they would at least interview me, so they did that. And I guess they liked me. So I guess for a while, I got a chance to work on the security team. So I worked at security not long before a hotel doorman job became available. A hotel door attendant. And I was excited, because that's what I wanted to do. I got an opportunity to watch the doorman work while I was in Chicago, and I really liked what they did. I said, now that would be a good fit for my personality. So I get a chance to, go outside and meet the guests and just have small conversations, check them in, give them luggage tag for their luggage, call the bellman over, grab the luggage to take it in so they can get checked in so everything can run nice and smooth, make their day go well. So I got a chance to be a doorman at the Westin Bonaventure Hotel. So I was in training for a little bit. I just need to know where they kept this and where this was located and what's y'all's procedure in doing this and where your luggage storage was kept. But the personality, I had that already. So matter of fact, while I was training, I was talking to guests. Welcome to the Westin Bonaventure. How are you? How can I assist you today or whatever, So I did that, and man, I had a ball. I had a ball. That was about a 6-7 year run. I mean, oh my goodness. You talking about having a good time. We dress in these hats and these long flowing coats, and you look like a king. You look appropriate to be standing in front of a door of a hotel that grand. Westin Bonaventure is a big place. Where I come from, a 100 and some room hotel in Chicago. This place was 1,470 rooms at the time that I checked in. So this place was huge. It wasn't the most luxurious hotel like the Westin O'Hare. O'Hare kind of have a sophisticated kind of luxury, where the Westin Bonaventure in Los Angeles, it was designed to hold a substantial amount of people, convention style. And so I had an opportunity to check people in. You work, as a doorman, there's two driveways. That's a Figueroa Street driveway, which is which almost took the length of the building. And then there was a Flower Street driveway, which you can only probably park by 2 or 3 cars, because of the rest of the time, the rest of the area of the driveway, because it's smaller, you need that area to work and to check people in. So I had a chance to be a doorman. Of course, the way the boss schedule is, we rotated. I'll work Flower Street, then come back to Figueroa Street the next day, then back to Flower Street, or sometime I might work Flower Street for a week and work Figueroa Street for a week. But man, that was a job. Smiling every day, and I enjoy smiling. I enjoy making other people smile, and I enjoy welcoming people, and people asking for directions. So I'm giving people directions, and people asking for recommendations for restaurants, and I'm giving them recommendations for restaurants, and giving directions of where those restaurants are located. And then there were restaurants in the hotel. And we had, at that time, we had the top of five. I don't know if it's called top of five now, but it was called top of five because the hotel had 5 towers, and the middle tower was the tallest, and in the top of that tower there was a restaurant, and it was called the top of five towers. And so I would, suggest they go up there, and and people would come down and thank me for the recommendations because they had a good time, they had a good meal, they had loosened a few notches in their belt, and there were people coming out of the hotel, who had rented meeting rooms and needed assistance as to turn the air on or whatever the situation is. So, I would assist with that, and then guests checking in. And so again, I'm giving them luggage tags so their luggage can, get to the room, assigning bellman to do that. And man, that was a great job. And so that was a long run. And so then you get cars coming in, and, their cars, coming in, and you give them direction or instructions on how to get a valet park, because many people who were checking in wanted their cars valet park. But because the Westin Bonaventure had large square footage of meeting room space and banquet facilities, there was a lot of banquets, a lot of parties, a lot of events that took place. And because of where the Westin Bonaventure is situated, it's in LA. The home where the stars are. It's right near Hollywood. So I got a chance to meet a lot of celebrities at that time. So you get a chance to do a lot of small talk, and you try, and you're instructed to treat celebrities as regular people. Don't go hogging them and try to get the autographs. And so I try to stick to those rules, and so, but I made them feel like they're people. I talked to them, like they're regular people. I didn't try to treat them like they were stars. I wanted them to be comfortable. I didn't want them shying away and, trying to. So anyway, I had a chance to do that. And so we had a lot of cars, a lot of events. So, particularly when I rotated to the Figueroa Street side, I can keep about 8, maybe 9 cars, for periods of time. So there were guests that would pull up in some beautiful vehicles, and so you show them where to park. Or a lot of times they were moving pretty quickly, so they would give you the key and you park the car, and you give them the luggage, the ticket for the car, and you park the car. And these are really nice cars. These are cars where you put a yellow cone in front of it and yellow cone in the back of it, and you make sure nobody even get close to these cars because you taking care of these cars. And so the types of vehicles that we took care of, and that was a term that we use as doormen. We take care of you. A guest will pull up on the driveway and they say, "Can you park my car?" We said, "Well, we'll take care of your car." And that, of course, there was a reason why we use those terms. I'm sure you can guess. But anyway, on a good Friday evening, maybe Saturday evening, we would have like cars such as Rolls Royces or Rolls Royce Corniches, which is the convertible models. We would have Bentleys, number of Bentleys. We would have Lotuses. I didn't even know what Lotus was until I worked at this hotel. We would have Aston Martins. We would have Vectors. I didn't know what a Vector was. I thought a Vector, when I saw a Vector, I thought it was a Lamborghini because we had a lot of Lamborghinis. Vectors, those are some beautiful, well put together cars. Ferraris. Oh man, and so we enjoyed taking care of our guests in that way. And so on Friday and Saturday, if you pulled up in my driveway looked, my side of the hotel looked very impressive. So if you pulled up in a Chevy Impala and asked me, "Can I park my car?" chances are whether you can park your Chevy was slim to none. So we would encourage you to park it next door or go around the opposite side of the hotel and have our attendants of valet park it for you. But we took very good care of our guests. and it was interesting because back in those days, every time we had a award show, whether be Academy Awards or some award, whatever, they generally had the pre-party at our hotel, and then many times they had the after party at our hotel. So we were hopping, we were jumping. So the Figueroa Street side of the hotel was so large until it took 2 doormen to run that side of the hotel. But the Flower Street side of the hotel was much smaller, the driveway much smaller, so it only took 1 doorman to run the Flower Street side. But the Figueroa Street driveway, man, it was jumping. It was hopping. I mean, it was something else. And also, it was times when we had movies filmed at the hotel, and they always seem to film on the Figueroa Street side. So, you get a chance to, you get a chance to be in the movie, not up close, but from a distance. You might watch a movie and y'all say, "Yeah, that's me standing way back there, But you get a chance to see movie sets set up and see movie action at work and watch them block off the street. And I know it was a big inconvenience for the traffic, but they would block off the street to do a street scene or do a racing scene or do an accident scene. And some of the cars that they tore up were beautiful. I'm thinking, oh my God, if you just let me have it, you don't have to tear it up. Just let me have it. I'll take it. But anyway, that was part of the LA lifestyle. But anyway, there were several celebrities that I had the opportunity to host or to accommodate or to take care of. And they would come in and out for dinner, luncheon at times, sometime the pre-party of an event, of an award, or post-party of an event. And there was a lot of celebrities came through there, but there's just a few that I really remember. I don't remember all of them, and all of them don't stand out, but I had a favorite jazz singer at the time named Nancy Wilson. She would come in from time to time, and I really admired her because she used to do a show down the street and around the corner at the Biltmore Hotel, and I forgot, it was called like Red Hot Jazz Cool or something to that effect. And I would get off work and go over there and just sit and while the traffic died down and the traffic really never died down in LA. But anyway, I would enjoy her every week, and so I would accommodate her. She would drive a Bentley and she'd pull up and she said, "You think you can take care of that?" I said, "I most certainly can, ma'am." So I took care of her Bentley for her while she go in, took care of whatever she needed to. And when she came back, I made sure she was good. I remember it was interesting because probably one among the most famous celebrities came through was Diana Ross. But Diana Ross came through, pulled up on the driveway. Her husband was driving, but he was driving a long limousine. And I thought that was interesting because they weren't riding in the rear of the limousine. He was driving the limousine. So I thought that was interesting. So he pulls up in it. And so, we'll assist her out of the car. And so there was an event or some function or whatever that she took care of on the inside. Also, those of you who are my age and older probably remember the old actor Gregory Peck. Gregory Peck pulled up one, and he also was driving a Bentley. And so I had an opportunity to take care of his car as well. But this next guest, he was a regular. And when I say regular, he was my regular for years. I look forward to seeing him every time he showed up. He showed up to the point so many times that he got to know my first name very well. He would come in, he would pull up. First when he come in, he was driving a black Rolls Corniche. And he would have the top down. It's black. And the leather is red on the inside. Even the carpet was red. And so he would pull up and I recognized who that was. I said, well, how you doing, sir? I said, welcome to the Western Bonaventure. How can I assist you? He said, you think you can take care? I said, I most certainly can. I said, if you just simply back up right in this area, I said, I'll, make sure your car is taken care of. Leave me your key in case of, a fire emergency or whatever. And I'll make sure you're taken care of. So he backed up, pulled up, and let the top up. And he came every single Friday. And it was none other than Luther Vandross himself. Man, I enjoyed that guy because we got to know each other real well. But he mostly came on Fridays. There was sometimes he came every Friday, but if he didn't make it every Friday, it was usually on a Friday. So I made sure I was never absent on Friday because when I took care of him, he took care of me. So he would pull up. So he comes so much until he stopped asking, can you take care of my car? Because this was now a routine. This was now on the regular. So he would pull up, and if that spot was available, he knew automatically. He would just automatically back up in that spot. I could be busy taking care of other stuff and not even realize he arrived. I could be busy taking care of other guests, whatever. Look up, he done got out the car, done locked the car, and he's handing me his key, and I got his key, and I put it away in my little private location, and he go up and he take care of whatever, and hour and a half or so later, 2 hours later, he come down, give him his key. He took care of the doorman and he took off. But this was such as a regular until now. We were real familiar with each other now. So now he would come up, he would find his spot. Sometimes if we had somebody, sometimes I might have a Ferrari or something in his spot. He knew where the other spot. He would pull in the spot. But this time, when he handed me the key, he would hand me the key and he was taking care of me at the same time and so we just did that. We just did that for years, man. And I tell you, I'm gonna tell you, he was a joy because he knew what I expected. I knew how, what he wanted, and I made sure what he wanted and what his preference was taken care of. It was just no conversation after that. It was just on the regular for years. And the family I had at the time, I would tell her, I said, yep, Luther was here again tonight. And so it was really a pleasure to serve that man. That man, he took care of me. And sometimes he would come in and it was interesting. My name is Ian. He would sing my first name. He would, Enoch. I was like, oh, wow. Okay, how you doing, sir? And so I took care of him and he took care of me. And so we had an ongoing hotel employee, hotel guest relationship like that. And so that went for years. And so he was a joy to work with, work for, work and just service. And that was a good thing. And so I really enjoyed working with him. But anyway, I've enjoyed sharing with you my hotel experience. It's kind of, like I said in the beginning, it's somewhat of a memoir or a diary, if you will. So I am going to ask you to hit like, hit subscribe, and share this video. Why? Because there's part 2. It's not all. And anyway, you get a chance to stop on by and let's build a big community together. All right? Take care. I'll see you next video. Peace.